Hello and welcome to Kritfayle. I'm the Penguin, and I'm joined here with Ghost. And today we're going to be talking about whether or not you should paint your armies. Now, it's an interesting topic. Ghost, you want to go a little further into that?
Well, this one's kicked around for a long time, like years and years and years, and it's always sort of bothered me. Because although I'm a painter, I do actually have a set idea on this. A lot of time I'll sort of be a bit, on either side, but I actually have a set idea on this one. And a lot of people basically say that you should paint your army. So if you're playing Warhammer 40k, Infinity, The Edge, any of these sort of games, that you should paint your miniatures. And it's really bad if you don't. Their sort of thing is that painting's fun, it's a great hobby, it's artistic, it does a lot of good for you, and a painted army looks so much better on the table than just the plastic or metal ones. The other side is there's people that just want to play the game, that have no interest in the art side of things, painting. They just want to get to the game, that's what they like. And I've known both. When we had a very good relationship with Games Workshop. A couple of the guys there were amazing painters, and there was a couple of the staff at our local store who, did it what they had to for their job requirement, but they really disliked the painting and they just loved the actual strategy game side of it.
All right.
So for me, and I say this as a painter, I don't think you should have to paint your army.
I can see why people would say they want armies painted, right? I mean, they're blank miniatures, and on the table they look, blank miniatures look kind of dull. The whole reason why, people paint their armies, isn't it to bring something to the table, literally, in this case?
Well, yeah, I do understand the appeal. Especially for painters, we don't always understand why someone wouldn't want to do that. And I think it's worse in like Warhammer 40k, although I don't believe that that's a Games Workshop sort of problem. It's not something that they're necessarily creating as a problem like that. It's just, if you look at the 40k Marines especially, there is so many different chapters and they all have different colours. So on that hand, yeah, I can totally look and go, if a guy's playing Blood Angels, then yeah, those bright red looks very cool. I always like the Salamanders, which was green. So I totally understand the idea that painting these miniatures up, having them on the table, also will clearly say to your opponent, apart from maybe a couple of instances where there might be different sort of similar shades, I'm not sure if there is, but there might be a couple of red chapters or something like that, but overall you're going to know who you're playing against always based on the colour of those chapters, sort of thing. So yeah. I do understand that. It's probably a multi-level sort of issue when you're dealing with the game.
I definitely believe there's more to it than people just don't want to paint their miniatures. I believe it's a thing, I would say, to do with, time and skill and really need, honestly.
Because I think that's part of the problem. I think both sides tend to look at this from just what they're sort of familiar with in a way. And I think what you said there was a very important part, is time. Now, painting miniatures can take time. And if you paint them well, it can take a lot of time. Yeah, they will say usually that you can just paint them. Although I think there was a rule you needed 3 colours. I think there was, like, if you wanted to play in certain tournaments, you needed at least 3 colours. But it didn't matter how good it was actually painted.
It just mattered that there was colours on the mini.
Right. So on one hand, then they'll say, well, why don't you just slap anything on? But then on the other side, some people will say, but a Space Marine that's well put together, unpainted, will look better than a 3 slapped on sort of coloured painted one.
That does make sense too.
Another thing is some people, I saw one guy said he doesn't have loads of money to make multiple armies, and he likes having a couple of different chapters, which if he painted Blood Angels and then he had Salamanders, he technically would need to have, I assume, they'd expect you to have 2 different sets of Space Marines then. One for your Salamanders in green and one for your Blood Angels in red.
I would assume so as well.
Which is could be a cost factor then if you can't.
Especially, yeah, definitely.
And not slamming GW for this, as an actual, but it's not the cheapest game to do if you're going to have 2 full armies. And especially, you might want to mix that up. If you can afford 2 armies, you might want to go 2 completely different ones. I mean, that's what I would tend to do myself. I would go maybe a Space Marines and Orcs, or Space Marines and Dark Elder or something, to not have just 2 of the same. But if you've got a family, you're working a lot of hours, you might not enjoy or have that time to begin. You just might not have that amount of time. You could either paint or you could go to the store and play a game. Now, from memory, you could play at the store with unpainted miniatures, as long as your list. Yeah, but the tournaments was the key, because I think the stores were fine as long as you had your list sorted and everything was legit like that. You didn't have any problems actually going into the store and playing. But if you wanted to play in any events anywhere, especially if there was any, I think that if it was not GW run, it would depend upon the individual event, but I'm pretty sure that all GW events required painted miniatures. So yeah, I think that's the time's part of it, money's part of it. The one thing I found when talking to my painter friends who tended to be more, you must paint these, this is, come on, why would you not? They were always coming from the fact that they love painting, that they really enjoy painting, that it was a big part of their hobby was the painting of things, but they didn't really acknowledge or always understand the flip side, that there's people that really did not enjoy that side of things, that don't want to paint, and they just want to play. They just want to come and play.
Yeah.
They don't want to. If they play chess, they don't want to have to sculpt the pieces before play. They just want to come and play chess.
I guess it'll depend on, I don't know, locale, and really what specific place you're playing at, what the rules are. If it's a home rule or a house rules, then it doesn't really matter so much. But if it's a shop or something, I can definitely see where that can get annoying.
Well, I mean, in some ways, it's in GW's best interest. I understand that. They want the tables to look great. They want to take pictures. They want to post pictures. They want to show that it's all part of it. They also sell all the art supplies. They sell the brushes and the paints and, all that side of things. So they want to get more of those sales. Although they don't enforce that you use their paints and stuff on the miniatures, but I mean, a lot of people are gonna. If you're going to be painting the miniatures and you're in the store, why would you not buy Blood Angels green, or Blood Angels red, or Salamander green, or what have you? Orc skin, the green skins.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that they have a vested interest. That makes sense. I also had some of them say, well, if they don't want to paint it, why don't you just pay someone then? But that can
again, that's money.
Yeah, and that can be expensive. If you turn up with a full Space Marine army or a full Orc unit with vehicles and stuff, and say paint this, there's painters that charge $50 a mini. Now there's ones that do it a lot cheaper, but still, you could end up spending $150, $250 on your army to have someone else paint them.
Yeah, on top of the cost of the original miniature.
Right. And that, to me, feels, in that case, that the money would be better spent on more minis. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's exactly clear-cut. Like, I know that I feel that you shouldn't have to paint your minis. If you paid for them, you don't want to, you just want to play. If that's your love, if your love is the game and not the hobby side, then it can possibly hurt your love of the game in a way. If you're being sort of forced to do something about the game that you don't like, that it might have a maybe not a huge detrimental effect, but I mean, if you really don't enjoy painting, the last thing you're going to want to do is come and do it. Now, there is now rattle cans for some of the base colours, so I guess you could just buy.
After that point, you could do you could do a red and then just a couple, highlights and.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 3 colours only, you could do silver for the gun, spray red for the Blood Angels if that's what you're using, and then maybe some black on the shoulder pad and the jetpack or something, and yeah, I mean, you'd have your 3 colours.
Thing is, too, if people don't want to paint, and even putting 3 colors down, if they've built a nice little like mini, even just a regular Space Marine, they're gonna try their damnedest to, if they're painting themselves, to make it look nice, and that's time. And I can also see why that also puts people off. It's something you definitely have to dedicate like a whole afternoon or day, really, to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the one thing that sort of comes up for me. Is like, if you're really busy and you can play twice a week or only once a week, if you had to paint your minis like it was an absolute requirement, or if all the other players, even if it wasn't enforced by the event, but if the other players are like, well, we won't play with you if you don't have painted minis. Now, I'm not sure that's ever happened, but there's some people that are very vehement about making sure that you have painted your minis.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't play that week because you have to paint. And if you don't finish and you've got to spend another week, that's 2 weeks you wouldn't play. And if that's what you want to do to unwind, if that's your big love, your big thing, you just want to go and roll some dice and take
have fun.
Yeah, I can see why it can be stressful for someone who doesn't enjoy painting. And the other thing I thought about was, there's a lot of people that say, and they are right in this, and I do understand where they're coming from, but it's one of those things, it's easy when you're good at it. I don't think many people really don't care how others perceive them. I mean, to a degree, you know, not everyone worries, but what I mean is, if you really are not a good painter and you don't enjoy painting and it's not your gig and you just want to play, if you're putting an army of just 3 colours that look, let's say, I don't mean this how it sounds, let's just say a bit rubbish, but I don't mean it derogatory. But the guy across from you is really good and he's going for best painted at the event, and even if they're like, hey man, doesn't matter, you did all you did was what was needed, you're here to play, who cares?
That could be a big thing on the person,
right?
Regardless,
those people could feel not pressure, but they could feel that I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. And even if that's not coming,
they could definitely, that sort of I don't want to say anxiety, but that sort of thing could definitely ruin someone's night. And
some places, anything that's painted goes into the best painted contest. They're usually anonymous, and you get your card, and it's got your number on it. And the only people that are meant to see this are the show organisers. And you put down usually at lunch, which is what I know when ours was, you'd put who you thought was the best army, and it got thrown into the box, and then the organisers would sit down and go through it, and the one with the most votes would win best painted. And no one else though knew where it went. But I saw some places would post not who won, but the whole.
Oh, the whole list.
Yeah, and you're going to have some guys at the bottom.
That's going to ruin some moods for sure. I could see them being, especially if they feel like if they personally feel like they placed better than what they did, for example.
Yes.
That can just create some conflict and tension and drama, which I don't think anybody really wants in their hobby.
Because I think the best painting is a really good category, but I don't think people always think about it.
Yeah, nobody. We only really care about first, second, third. Everybody else, round of applause. Maybe you can give it an honorable mention if someone's done something creative or clever with like the building or their paint scheme or whatever. But yeah, posting the whole list like first to last is probably unnecessary.
And especially, like you said, if you actually had decided, I'm going to have a go this time. Now, realistically, they might still be in a position where they go, there's no way I'm going to win because X, Y, and Z are coming, and I've seen their stuff and they're amazing. But if they've really tried this time, they've finally decided, I'm not just going to slap 3 colours on, I'm going to try to go a little bit more. And they're not expecting to win, they're not expecting to be in maybe the top 10, but they're hoping for at least one vote. That someone, maybe not best, but just someone goes like,
oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you get a whole list, and you get 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
Right.
So I don't think it's a good idea to post the whole list. I mean, just
No.
going, okay, if you have 3, there's usually 3, first, second, and third.
Yeah.
Do that. And as you said, you can, if you know, especially if the people that are going there you're familiar with, the people, like if you're a store or an event sort of organizer, and you know the people there, and you know that this guy's not a painter, and you know that he's put some time in, you don't have to give a booby prize, because you don't want a pat on the head. That makes you feel bad. But you can totally be like, this is, he's done a lot of really cool work. This is his best work we've seen, and he's improved drastically. It's a positive encouragement. And I think that when you're really good, you forget what it's like to be crap, or to be starting out, or
Definitely.
things that you find easy, other people find really hard. I saw that firsthand with fencing. We had we were very lucky to have an Olympian that was attached to our club that would come sometimes, and of course he was great, and he forgot when he was teaching that especially with beginners, that something that he could do in his sleep, they just couldn't. They just couldn't get their heads around it, and he kept thinking, what's the problem here? Is it that I'm not a good teacher? Is it that they're never going to get this? And it's like, no, man, it's just, you've done it. Yeah, you've done it so many times, and you're natural. It's totally easy for you. Whereas the beginner and the intermediate, that was either well out of their zone or at the absolute total edge of their ability. So of course they're struggling. And it's the same with painting. Yes, there's techniques, and yes, sometimes there's simple techniques that can give you good effects, but the really, really talented guys, there's stuff that they do, even if it's time consuming. Like, there's stuff Gorilla with the brush does, and he's like, it's not that hard, just work at it. And yeah, I get it, and I know where he's coming from, and he's positively encouraging. But I'm sitting there going, holy crap, I'm watching him do something, and he's like, okay, this is like 12 steps, and it's not that hard. Like his wood, he did wood floors, and they're really good, and you can actually do them. But he just like, zoop, 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 and then you do this, zoop, 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 and then you do this, zoop, 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 and there he goes, boom, gorgeous looking wood floors. And it's like, wow, that was really cool, but
I have no idea how you did that so well, because here I am trying to replicate that, and it's not going the same.
And I've just watched you do it.
Yeah. It's like, what am I missing? I don't get it.
And
No,
definitely. Yeah, and the freehanders as well. So that's the guys that did amazing freehand work.
Yeah.
So I think that people, maybe part of the solution is if you feel that people have to paint, if that's your sort of inner belief, that you think that they really should have to paint their minis to have on the table, and maybe in general, not just at tournaments, but if you really think that they should, maybe the answer, at least in part, is to be
A little more open-minded.
yeah, a bit understanding about where they're coming from or the issues that they may be dealing with. Because that's the thing, not everyone's going to come in and say they're going through a divorce, or they've had recently a death in the family or something, and that 1 week event thing they come to is their massive period to just try to let go of that for 4 hours, 5 hours. We don't know always what's happening in people's lives, but maybe we can just be a little bit more understanding. And if we really do feel that they have to paint, maybe we can try to be just more positive sometimes. There's some really positive and encouraging painters. I'm not implying that everyone who says, I think you should paint, is, being negative about it.
Yeah. And not only that, at the end of the day, you're all there, the person's brought their stuff, it's unpainted, but it's well built. But what, you're going to tell this person, sorry, go home, or we're not going to let you pay, or we're not going to let you play for the sole reason that you have unpainted minis? Like, sorry Jim, we love you, but gotta go home. I feel like that's a little low.
Yeah.
You're gonna really ruin someone's time and the effort they came out to go all the way down, and what? Because they have unpainted minis?
And I think that there's people that are really encouraging, and they are. And I know people are going to say, well, we're lucky at our store that we've got this guy, or there's these guys, or I myself might do this. And that is totally awesome. And if you have those stores, or you are someone who's like that, absolutely awesome.
Yeah, you guys keep it alive.
Yeah, totally. But I have known people, I've had conversations with people who do not give their time to help others with painting, but sort of have this demand about that their miniature army should be painted. And I think maybe be a bit more inclusive in that way. And if you try to show people then easier ways, not necessarily to get the best finish or the most amazing mini, but how to make a mini look okay and not take forever. Because if they're going to have to paint it, they're not going to want to have something that's total crap. I mean, there's a few people that are happy with that. Just go, I don't care. There's 3 colours. Yeah. Here you go. I don't care.
They play more like a chess game than anything.
But, maybe especially with GW, because GW, you go in and they usually have a painting station. They usually have areas, and the staff are very good because that's their job. But it's a community. That's the thing. These games aren't just something that you don't really have any connection to your opponent sort of thing. It's not like the Xbox where there's only a handful of times I know anyone that I'm playing against sort of thing. It's basically a bunch of randoms all the time. This isn't. You're there at the store or the event. You're across from the person. They do have great etiquette. One thing that I always loved about GW was they did push the etiquette, shaking hands, play nice, play fair. It doesn't always happen, but it happens a lot. They do try to generate that. Best Sportsman Award usually goes to the person coming dead last, because nearly every time that happens, the person's a laugh a minute. Yeah. Several tournaments we did, every time that went to the guy who was the funniest, and then when we looked at the thing, always dead last by a lot. Didn't win a single match all day.
That was I feel like that was almost the point in a way. He's like, he knew he was going to lose. He wasn't the best tactician, but damn it, he's going to have a fun time.
Exactly, and they did, and that's the thing. He never got it because he came last. He got it because when everyone said, who was the one you enjoyed playing against the most, it was them.
Yeah.
I think that you can try to encourage that same sort of environment around the painting. If you're good at something, or even if you're, you don't have to be gold demon sort of thing, but
I was going to say,
it's not about that. If you're a decent painter and you feel that someone should have a painted army, if they come to the store, try to encourage them, make them. And that's the thing, maybe part of the game is this big social aspect, so it's not all about the game. It's
of course.
So maybe
you're playing in person, you're talking, you're strategizing.
Right. So if you really think that they should paint their stuff, maybe just say, oh, why didn't you come in? You got some time, next week. And if they say, yeah, I'm free Tuesday. If you're free Tuesday, maybe offer to turn up. It's just you can say like, yeah, okay, I'll come in. I bought some Dark Elders. I'll paint them. Bring in your Space Marines. I'll show you a couple of easy techniques, and try to make them then feel that it's not the painting isn't them alone and just doing a chore.
Don't make it a hassle.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, everyone's there to have fun.
Exactly. You're there for the same thing. At the end of the day, you all love either the miniatures or the game or a combination of the two. So,
yeah, the hobby in itself.
And I guess it can work in the opposite way too. If you know that there's someone who doesn't play the game, but who comes in, buys the minis, paints the minis. Some guys would paint the minis at the store who don't play the game. I used to do that sometimes.
Yeah, just to talk.
Yeah, we'd hang.
Just to talk and paint. Yeah.
Try to encourage them maybe to play the game. They might not have enough for an army, but there's sometimes the stores sort of have
skirmishes or whatnot that you can do.
And they might have they sort of sometimes have like a store army that's not a personal one, that they sort of go like, you can use this, you can come in and have a game, and try to build your community with whatever it is. It's a little harder, I think, with something like Infinity and some of those, because what was the massive strength, of course, about Games Workshop was they had stores. So yeah, I guess the message we're taking is just help build your community and have fun.
Yeah.
You're all in this together.
The only way to stop a community from dying is to interact with it, right?
Oh, absolutely, because that's the thing. What are you going to do if you're the game?
Yeah, if you don't build what you're trying to participate in.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really know how we should end this.
Not like that.
No.
too clever for my own good.
We couldn't even get a fucking anti-drug PSA in without fucking it up. Good God, we're terrible, are we? Jeez.
That's kind of
That's kind
who
of
we are.
That's why we're called. Yeah, it's kind of.
It's fitting. It's perfect.
The whole. It's It would be uncharacteristic if it was too good,
Yeah.
or if it wasn't.
Worry when we get it right.
Yeah.